Welcome to Living Spiritual Daily LSD. We're going to go deep today. We're going to go prison sex, Big Black Larry, Jeffrey Epstein, the John Gotti fight, being 23, going to prison. So the LSD tip for today is don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Hello, I'm Joel. Welcome to LSD. So, I went to prison at the age of 23, 151 months after my jury trial. And it was just a moment in time with not ratting and doing the right thing. And, the jury trial was a crazy affair. It's all in the book. But after I lost my jury trial at the federal courthouse in the 6th District, Eastern District of Kentucky, which is Covington, across the river from, I think that was Cincinnati, 1992, 33 years ago, they brought me to the holding cell inside the federal courthouse, and the marshals left that office, and so I was laying there. This is a cell with bars, and then in front of that was just like a fancy old school office. I pleasured myself right then and there in the cell. It was messy. There's a little bit of tissue I had to clean myself up with, and I said out loud, "Motherfucker, you better get used to it, because that's all you got." And then I thought to myself, when I get out of prison, I want to try sushi and I want to surf. And then the whole time I sold LSD on Dead Tour, people that sold heroin and, did cocaine or were alcoholics couldn't get the real good LSD. And so I just said to myself, I'm going to try injecting heroin into my veins. And in fact, I did at the second prison I was at. But that's not what this story is about. That's just a little aside. About 17 days before Jeffrey Epstein was killed, I tracked down his lawyer. I left his lawyer a message. I sent his lawyer a book with a letter, and I said that I would teach Jeffrey how to survive in prison. Without getting into the specifics, I gave a couple tidbits of information in that letter, and who knows if they were monitoring that lawyer or not, but the book was sent to where he had a sign for it, so I knew if he got it. And then 14 days after that, that motherfucker was dead, man. And yeah, I had dollar signs in my eyes, but absolutely, without getting into any specifics, I could have, if you're on suicide watch or in a supermax prison, you do not have a cellmate. And there were so many inconsistencies which were reported by the media, but probably just because they don't know. So the legend of Big Black Larry, the first prison I was at, I heard about the legend of Big Black Larry, and whether it's true or not, there's probably similar stories to that. But Big Black Larry was, 5'6", 7", 350-pound, lean, sweet as they come black man without the package. And in prison, if you have the package, it's AIDS. And what the story was, and I always heard it from someone who heard it, that when people arrived at the prison and they got off the bus, they hadn't clicked up yet, they might just come onto the compound. And Big Black Larry was the guy that, he wasn't gonna fill your asshole up with cum, but he wanted his asshole filled with another man's cum. He was as sweet as they come. And they're these guys, they're white and black, but there was just the legend of Big Black Larry, like Big Dick Bob was always the one who was banging your girlfriend while you were in jail. So, and the story goes that, I can't necessarily ever debunk this one, but I guarantee you there were people like this on the compound. And that if you didn't submit to him in the sense that he either wanted to perform fellatio on you or he wanted you to fill him up with cream, and apparently that if you didn't agree to one, he would knock you out, and then you would wake up as, you know, your thing is inside his mouth. And I mean, that's just a hell of a way to go. And the thing is, depending upon what race you were coming from or gang you were in, they, you know, more than likely you wouldn't be able to decide. The decision would be made, and if you weren't clicked up, you would be thrown to the wolves. So I never had to deal with anything like that. I went in straight, I came out straight, but again, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And then the John Gotti fight we'll get to a little bit later. Prison sex, there definitely was a fair amount of prison sex, but you know, the second prison I got to, Nicky A, I'm not going to say his last name, his dad was a made member of the mafia in St. Louis. And you know, this was a prison that I knew had a lot of drugs on the compound. I'd been in the first prison in Sandstone, Minnesota for about 9 months, was transferred to Colorado, Inglewood, Colorado, FCI medium. The first night I got there, James Irving was in my pod, was in there for LSD. He pulls out an ounce of marijuana inside a federal prison. Now in Sandstone, there wasn't shit. And was at the county jail fighting the sentencing after trial for probably 6 months. I got stoned right before the trial, but so for 15 months, at the age of, you know, now I'm 24, clean, lean, healthy, but had absolutely no chemicals in my body whatsoever, except, you know, maybe an occasional Twinkie or something that I splurged on at the commissary. So my system was clean. And that was just quite a sight to see. But in that same pod was Nicky A. And Matt McCusker asked me about this, and I kind of froze up, and it's about the jack rag and the masturbation technique that I talked about in my book, because he even mentioned it on a separate podcast, my name, and you know how the orgasms were, you know, strong and powerful. But and in the book it's explained by detail. But Nicky, now I didn't know if Nicky was messing with me or not, but he said, you know, I got the technique for you to masturbate. Now James is there, we smoked the joint, and we're smoking joints every night, and that's a whole nother story. And he says that you know, that he was taught this technique, and I still use it today. And whether you're married, whatever you have, gay, straight, not, like, you know, I wake up with a heart on still today at the age of 56. If I sleep at least 6 hours, I'm waking up with morning wood. And sometimes you just got to take care of them, you know. So he says, you arouse your, you know, he's just telling me this. He says, you want the best technique for masturbation. And it requires a sock that you turn inside out. But the sock is not used for friction like a normal sense of arousing a male. So he says, you get yourself fully hard. You grab your shaft, and you grab the skin around it real tight. And then that's when you start the motion up and down. And so you're actually, the skin, no matter how hard or how strong it is, you grab that skin and you're going up and down, up and down, up and down. And what happens is the heat generates internally down at the base. And eventually it works all the way up to the tip. But again, it's not a matter of taking whatever they make, the pocket things, and you're going up and down on the shaft. You're actually grabbing your skin so tight that the skin is going up and down. Now the reason for the sock is you turn the sock inside out. The softer of the sock is actually on the outside. And then the sock is going up and down with your skin around the shaft. And then at the point of climax, the sock is there to catch everything. In between pulsations, you take the middle of your hand and you're touching to the top of the, right there where it's, you know, where you would have the most sensitive spot. But I mean, it's a knee buckler every single time. And when he was telling me James was there, and then finally James kind of looked at me, he says, man, he's not fucking with you. He's like, this is the legitimate thing. And I immediately went into the bathroom and I did it. And one of my posts on Instagram talks about the jack rag. And it's the technique though. It is the best technique for masturbation. It's better than any machine that's sold anything. And it seems counterintuitive, grabbing the skin. And if you have a really tight, hard on, you can't grab the skin, but you can. I mean, the family jewels will shake around, but that even makes for a more intense orgasm when it happens. And then with the sock, you don't have to worry about it getting all over everything and staining your white clothes or whatever you're wearing. And then you just press on the tip with right here, fits perfectly. It's like we were made that way in between the pulsations. And what an amazing tool that was to get through. And so again, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. And the John Gotti fight, we're gonna save that one for the future. I don't know if that's relative here. I've seen some people on YouTube post things up, and eventually I wound up into Marion, the Supermax Fed pen, and we'll get into that later. But the fight, it was known before the fight happened. So like when we went out to the yard that day, I was on C Block with Big Mac Mike, Mick Eleni, Richie. Believe it or not, in Marion they have these really old tennis courts with really shitty rackets. And you know, Mac would get mad sometimes when I'd miss a shot. He'd throw the racket at me, but it wouldn't hit me. He'd be like, God damn it, man, get that fucking shot next time. I want to win. And then when I'd win, he would be like, good shot, good shot. But I mean, he was the leader of the AB. He was a wicked dude. So, but again, it wasn't necessarily abuse. He'd like throw it at your legs. So you wouldn't want to miss the shot. But you wanted Mac as your partner because he was a battler, you know. And so anyway, Wolf called me over to the fence. He's like, hey man, they're gonna fight now. He's like, let's come watch it. And I'm gonna stop it there. We'll save the John Gotti fight for a little more in the future. But I have never seen anybody online that I knew from Marion, and there was only, I think at the time there was 385 people in the whole prison, and there's 2 tiers on each unit, and outside rec, we all kind of would go out at the same time. But I mean, it was a fair fight. You know, there was no there was nothing that was not of like convict regulation during that fight. So at the end of the day, again, the LSD tip today is don't do the crime if you can't do the time. This was some heavy stuff, so I love you all, and I am very grateful today. Thank you very much.